think I'm going to cut my bleeping commission, you can take this home and shove it up your bleeping, and I know that it will fit. Imagine saying that to a customer, Tom.
No, I can't do. Look, I've said some stuff. If you're not getting educated about current real estate market conditions, whether you're a real estate agent, you're doing mortgages, you're in title, you're an attorney or a financial advisor who people look for guidance from, you're doing yourself and your client base a disservice. This is the Knowledge Brokers Podcast. I'm Tom Toole. I'm here with Byron Lazine and Lisa Chinatti, and we've got the same stories we've been tracking, but that's how big they are in real estate. And I want to lead off with the commission lawsuit that's ongoing. BAM has done a great job of covering this in a way that doesn't get you involved in all the legal mumbo jumbo for regular folk like me that want to understand this. And when I was prepping with Lisa this morning, Byron, I don't know that this lawsuit is going the way the plaintiffs hoped. I think it's actually come out that it's really focused on a lot of training. They're focusing on scripts and dialogues that people use with interchangeable numbers. And the plaintiffs that came on the stand, I don't think it worked out too well for them. What are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, my initial thought with some of the plaintiffs' responses and the fact that they've openly admitted that they were negotiating, they didn't feel like they were being tricked. This is a couple of the five, anyways, that openly admitted that. It comes down to they feel like they're operating in an unfair system. Well, your feelings around fairness are not a contract, and so I find it hard to believe that there's going to be something that comes out of this that goes above and beyond the settlements that Remax has made and the settlements that Anywhere has made. If there were to be more on top of the settlements, that would be a big L for NAR and Keller Williams and BHHS in this case. But maybe this is the reason they pushed forward. They said, hey, we can actually get a better deal than the settlements made by Remax and Anywhere. And maybe that's what we're here as we wrap up week 2 in this class action suit in the trial. Maybe that's where we're going to end up. There have been, though, Tom, some things that are really not good. Okay.
I agree. I agree.
For example, I don't know if you went and looked. So actually, Inman reported this. We didn't report it, not because we're boys with TF, but there was a Tom Ferry podcast that delivered some fresh drama. Okay, this is the Inman article, and I don't know. Do you guys know who? Have you guys ever talked to Alan Dalton?
I haven't.
I have not.
So he's an OG. He's been around, I don't know, probably 40 plus years. Maybe I'm shortchanging him. He's a old school realtor.com CEO. He's been in the brokerage landscape for a really long time. And the video now, I believe, let me see.
It's back up. I was pulling it up while we were.
Oh, it's back.
Oh, it's back up because it was taken down at one time, which I thought was interesting because Tom doesn't it. I mean, maybe he was just, the video was already out there. So why even take it down, right? They already had it in the trial. I don't understand taking it down. Tom, what happened was Alan Dalton put out this really racy, script that he claims one of his agents uses. He says he wouldn't use this language, but it was a awful script. It was on the same level as the crap Mike Ferry scripts that they presented during some of the hearings. But to Tom's defense, when the script was read out, Tom said, "I want to be clear. I am not advocating for this script." And this is the kind of crap that gets real estate agents lumped in with used car salesmen. Alan in the script on the Tom Ferry podcast says, "There's no bleeping way I'm going to cut my bleeping commission. What do you think? I'm a bleeping hooker standing outside the Lincoln Tunnel at 3:00 in the morning giving bleepings to sailors. If you think I'm going to cut my bleeping commission, you can take this home and shove it up your bleeping, and I know that it will fit." Imagine saying that to a customer, Tom.
No, I can't do. Look, I've said some stuff that I think makes other people nervous, right? Like things like those tough questions you got to ask people in transactions. Professionalism is one of our core values at our team, right? I've always been a big believer in that. My dad had me in like a shirt and a tie, like I went to private school, all that stuff, right? I could never say it. It makes me like mind-boggling to me. Maybe Lisa would say it with some of the quotes that she puts out there at BAM camp, but I could never ever say that to somebody and believe that I'm still helping them and doing my job and being their advocate.
Yeah, no, there's a line. I don't know what the private school stuff has to do with it, but
Well, I was in a shirt and a tie all the time. Like, I mean, it was, you get groomed by your parents to do stuff, right? And that was his belief of it, but it was always presented a higher level.
I
And
just razzing you. I
that's where I'm
get you.
going
I'm
with it.
just razzing you. Yeah, I think the interesting thing is that the defendants filed for a mistrial, and it wasn't granted. And it'll be, I think, what has happened in all of this, I think it was a miscalculation by the plaintiff's part, because I think it's going to leave the door wide open on appeal if this doesn't go the way of the defendants. I think it leaves a really big opportunity for a different outcome and obviously the length of time of an appeal.
Yeah, obviously there will be some sort of appeal.
Either way, I think whoever loses is going to appeal, right? But I think if this goes on the way of the plaintiffs, I think that the opportunity and the door has been open wide for the defendants to have a pretty good standing on the case of an appeal. It was a polarizing video. I watched the content in it, and it was definitely a polarizing video, especially where I believe that they just showed that one segment as opposed to showing more of it. So
this video is in regards to what now?
That podcast.
The Alan
Oh, the Alan
video.
Dalton. Yeah. Yeah. The Catchmark attorney on the other side, on the plaintiff side, he's been animated a lot during this trial as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the judges actually talked to him about that a few times. And so there's really been a lot of just like, I don't know, I find this to be like a lot of emotions about people's reactions to agents and their feelings about agents, more so than like glaring evidence in any direction.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Lisa.
No, I was going to say I agree, and I think that it's when you kind of listen to it shake out, like you said, I think what's clear is that the plaintiffs have almost all of them admitted that they had an opportunity to negotiate, and that it's their emotional reaction afterwards versus any real inherent issue. It's fascinating to watch it all shake out. That's all I have. Fascinating.
Are you tired of taking horrible courses offered by your local realtor board or the NAR online classes? I know I am. And the fact is, you don't get a lot of value from those courses. So here's the good news. BAMX, your real estate edutainment platform, is here. You can find out how to master objections with me, the objection handling king, practiced and scripted for over 20 years. You can learn how to use ManyChat with the broke agent and Jill from BAM. You can work with Lisa Chinatti about managing your CRM, understand how to use Canva for marketing, get Instagram hacks. All this stuff is right there in BAMX. Just use the code Knowledge Brokers, educate yourself, grow your business, sell more houses. Yeah, and what I'm looking at here, I mean the REBNY, the New York Board of Realtors, they came out and they've changed their policies a little bit. Now they're not governed by NAR, where they're no longer allowing listing brokers to pay buyers agents. So I mean that the changes in the that came out of the settlements with Remax and Anywhere, it's basically the same thing as the NAR DOJ settlement that was overturned a few years ago. To me, that's all that. If I was going to predict something here, that's how I predict this plays out. I mean, I've actually been impressed with how a lot of the real estate leaders in the industry held up during their testimonies. I mean, you heard what Gino Bulfari said, Gary Keller. I mean, and they're very firm on this. And I was, Nick Bailey. I mean, you can go on and on. The list is all there. And those folks have done their job in terms of leaders in the industry, which I've been impressed with. I don't see anything else changing except that you can't offer. You're not going to have that MLS rule. It's got to be $1 instead of $0, which is really not substantial. And it's really going to be like you talk about Alan Dalton as something that's really sensational, and on the far end of this, it's going to be up to leaders at the local level, in my view, to make sure their agents aren't saying stupid things like it's free to use me, because I still hear that today, even though this is all going on. And that's the stuff that's going to get people in trouble. And I'd imagine we're going to see more standardized contracts. Like New York's a very attorney heavy state. I mean, I've talked to, we have two friends up there, JD Lenar, Josh Rubin. It takes a month to close properties. Imagine if they just had a standard agreement and standard listing contracts like a lot of our states do that spell this out. That's why you're seeing those changes by REBNY. And I don't see much more coming out of this. I do agree it's definitely going to appeal. I mean, no matter what happens here, this thing's getting appealed.
Yeah, it sounds like 1 week left, so we'll know where we stand. Lisa, could they, before the end of next week, they could come to a settlement at any point, right?
I think so. Until I think they can, once the jury's even out, they can come to a settlement before the jury even comes back. Like, that's not off the table.
So I think that's still possible that we could get there.
I mean, the majority of cases settle out of court. I mean, that's just a fact, right? And I think part of the problem is that the training's not great for a lot of real estate agents, and they just say whatever to sell a house, and they're out of the business in 5 years. And I think that's probably more what this has to do with than folks that actually make this a career and really help people. Because I mean, everything's. I mean, anyone's telling me or you guys that commissions aren't negotiable, like I've got a lot of case study data that I could share with them.
Yeah.
So do you think it settles? What do you guys think? Settles or
no? I mean,
or it's going to go to
I think
jury?
It does because this attorney, while he's animated, and the plaintiffs are saying they think the system is unfair. They've already shown their true colors by going and getting 2 money grabs from Anywhere and Remax. It's just a money grab for the attorney. He's making some headlines, so he's getting the best of both worlds. He's got 2 settlements in his pocket. He's making headlines during the last couple of weeks in Kansas City. I mean, if he gets some more settlements, I mean, he's the one that's going to walk away with a boatload of money, him and his firm.
Yeah.
And, those plaintiffs are really not going to make that much of, they're not going to make much money, and they're not going to have much of an impact here.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Agreed. I think one thing that I'll note is that outside of industry news, I haven't seen it very publicized in any of the mass media that the typical consumer looks at. I don't know if I've just missed it, but I haven't seen very much, if anything.
I mean, there really hasn't been. I mean, we've had a couple consumers ask us about this. So, I mean, and there's always going to be those people that are really well informed. We haven't heard much. I mean, I don't know if you're seeing anything different.
Just that one, the first day of the trial, the Wall Street Journal there, but that was a bought and sold piece from the plaintiff attorney in the Wall Street Journal. But you haven't seen anything else. You're right.
All right, so we will keep you posted on this one. Hopefully there's a nice resolution that's great for real estate agents that we can talk about next week, but we'll definitely cover it here on Knowledge Brokers. So let's go to some economic data. I want to pivot a little bit here, but there's been a couple things that have come out that are relevant in terms of where we're going economically. We saw gross domestic product, which is a measure of all the goods and services produced in the U.S. It rose at a 4.9% annualized pace in the third quarter, ahead of the estimate of 4.7%. We also saw jobs data. It was, I guess you could call it positive. I'm not a big believer in this, but this is what the Fed wants. That jobless claim applications, they rose to 210,000 for the week ending October 21st. That was up by 10,000 applications. And the previous week's applications were the fewest in 8 months. So we saw a slight uptick there. Rates are still hanging in that high 7-8% range. I saw 7.75% yesterday. It's a daily thing you got to monitor. Byron, you've been talking about this a lot, this higher for longer and longer for longer relationship that you're going to have to build for with clients. And the president of the Philadelphia Federal Reserve, who's a voting member of the Federal Reserve, also said the same thing about a week and a half ago, that, hey, maybe we do need to pause rate hikes because we got a Fed meeting coming up here at the end of the month, and that you're going to expect these conditions for longer. And Lisa and I were prepping for the show. It's been a slow week because I think this is just what we're dealing with right now. What's your two's observations on this?
I mean, I don't think anything has changed in the foreseeable future for rates. I don't care what happens next week with the Fed. I think we're going to continue to hover around 8. I think it was Goldman Sachs came out, has us projected. I think Lisa did a great job on the hot sheet. I think she covered it with Goldman Sachs projection in the mid 7s basically throughout all of next year. I mean, we're in a position right now, if we keep just spending outside of the budget too, where this thing could get higher. As they go and sell off some bonds here, and this could get, a lot. It could get higher. So I just think you got to stick in there. This will be the hardest 6 months of your career, quarter 4 and quarter 1, and you got to recognize that and own it.
If you're looking to level up your business, scale it out, be able to manage more clients, have a bigger pipeline, you're going to need a reliable CRM. And as a Boomtown user since 2016, we've got some exciting news that KV Core and Boomtown are now part of the same family. And that means they've come together, they're using all their knowledge, all their tech, and they're making an even better CRM that's going to help you scale your business, sell more houses, talk to more people, and manage your leads more efficiently. And if you're like Lisa, she's in her CRM every week. She's in her CRM every day. I think that's what she does in her free time. And she's constantly looking at it to make sure that the opportunities aren't slipping through the cracks. That's what a great knowledge broker does. So if you want to get your business to another level, lean into Boomtown. Visit boomtownroi.com/knowledge brokers for more information. Again, it's boomtownroi.com/knowledge brokers. I'm a boomer since 2016. It's leveled my business up tremendously. Lisa loves her CRM. Byron does too. You should do the same. Get with Boomtown.
Yeah, I agree. I think that my gut says that we see 8.5 before things really start to go back down. I think we can't be surprised if we see that. I think we'll find a period where it bounces between 8.25 and 8.5. To Tom's point, with some of the data, I think one of the impactful things, again, we never want to hope for bad news on jobs stuff, but the prediction was that we would have come in with 207,000 claims and we were at 210,000. So even for that time period, it was up over what was anticipated. So up even more from the last reporting, but definitely some impactful stuff that was happening. There were also some reports this morning on income and spending, which were also kind of interesting and kind of giving signs that consumers are still spending heavily.
The spending hasn't stopped. I mean, that's the interesting thing. I mean, and we've seen a lot of data that people are taking on more debt on credit cards than they have in a very long time, which is interesting to me because when you talk to these folks that are consumers, they're worried about 8% rates, but they don't bat an eye at 25% credit card rates. And I mean, that's an opportunity in my view for the knowledge broker who wants to get serious about helping educate folks. Like, hey, what's the rate on your car payment? What's the rate on your credit card? Because people are just buying those things left and right. And credit card debt's obviously not great debt. Cars values go down. I mean, housing, you're still going to see the value appreciate. I thought Ryan Serhant did a really good job on a piece of content he put out. Byron, I think you guys highlighted it on BAM where it was when rates hit 8%. And he basically said, like, hey, you can renegotiate the rate later, but the prices are still going to go up. That purchase price is what you're locked into no matter what. And if you're not having those conversations with folks, I'm not saying everyone's going to buy, but you've got to get realistic with people because they tend to have blinders on when they're looking at homes and saying, oh, these 8% rates, but then they're charging their credit card at 25%, buying cars because their transmission went or whatever else. And those rates are a lot higher. And everything's being affected by the monetary policy right now.
Without a doubt.
I think we're probably still the what's the market got Powell doing next week? We're probably going to see another pause.
Yes, last time I checked, it was over 98% chance that they pause. And for the first time, Byron, there was a probability on a cut. It wasn't very high right now.
I don't see that happening, but
I don't see it happening either. I'm just telling you what the chart says. So now today it's up to a 99.4% chance, according to the CME group. I'm going to send this chart over to Bobby to put in so people can see this, that there's a rate pause and there's a 0.6% chance there's a cut. This is the first time I've seen this in years. So I'm not It's kind of like if you remember that showing time data when we were shut down during the pandemic and everyone was looking when they saw it like blip up a little bit. That's the sign that this might go the other way. Now we still got it. Like I think who said 6 months? Lisa, it was you. I think 6 months is buckle up. It's going to be a cold winter, everybody. So let's get real with our businesses. I'll send this to Bobby right now.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the consensus was a skip or a pause, whatever you want to call it, right now, and then December potentially one last hike.
Well, they've backed off that a little bit. I mean, you're here. I mean, the Philadelphia Fed president, he's a voting member. He's saying, let's just stop. So, with what's happened this month with rates going up, my observation is they wanted rates to get this high. And now that you said a couple times, Byron, hey, you're going to feel these effects later. It's going to be longer down the line. And now that it's happened, they're seeing what they want. And I mean, demand has slowed for housing. It's still there's still a lot of demand out there because of inventory, but you're not seeing the ferocious demand that we saw. We've seen inventory grow in our market in terms of months supply 9% year over year. So again, we're at the start of this going the other way, but it's still going to take like 6 to 9 months to really feel the effect. I mean, we talked about surviving until 25 last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm a big believer in that. I think that's some of the best advice I've heard in a while.
While the class action lawsuit is getting no national headlines outside of that Wall Street Journal piece on day one, Lisa, the real estate housing market is getting headlines every single day. So the
multiple times a day.
So the average consumer is seeing, a lot of headlines reflective of a frozen market. People can't move. People don't want to give up 3 to 4% interest rates. Like this information is getting bombarded into homeowners, buyers, consumers' minds right now.
Yep. Absolutely. It's hard to avoid.
How do you combat this going through the winter? I was out at that Real conference here this week, and I'll just one way I'm thinking about it, because I got to meet Alex Hormozi. He was the keynote. I got to spend a couple minutes with him because I was going on right after him. And so he's talking about these external conditions. Okay, he's not a real estate guy, but he's been through ups and downs. And these external conditions are what I just described, right? The market, the headlines, how consumers feel about the housing market. And so there's going to be people that obviously will transact this year, albeit a smaller number. But there are people that are starting their journey of a transaction that'll take place in 25 and 26. Okay. And so I'll just read some of the things that he shared. People, including future you, will be watching what you do and how you act. So not only your future self is going to watch what you do this winter, not only are you training your mind by the actions that you're going to take this winter with regards to your business, but the general public and community is going to be watching what you do, whether that even means subliminally, right? They're going to be seeing it a little bit on Instagram stories. They're going to be seeing a little bit of it on Facebook. So he went on to say you need to do 3 times the work for the same outcome, but understand that 10 times the eyes are on you during this time. So you close deals when times are hard, and they'll know that you'll close their deal when times are easy. The agents that are going to make $300,000 plus in 2025 are going to be the ones that make it known that they're closing deals in hard times, that get as much as they can now, because they're also just going to have the bigger database, the bigger opportunity, the more chances, the more at bats come 2025, because people are going to see them through all the hard times.
Yep.
So I thought that was an impactful couple of points that he made that I wrote down. I'm going to be sharing that with as many people as I can here going into this fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think that
I love that.
Totally. Absolutely. I think it's the question that you asked, how do you combat it? I think we just have to, as an industry, be putting out more content than the mass media is. And, the empathetic content without the hysteria and the fear, right? There's still opportunity. There's still reasons why it makes sense. It doesn't always, but there are still times when it does. And there's ways to navigate it that can be beneficial.
I'd be getting the payment out on every listing. I'd be getting the cash opportunity out there. I'd be talking the monthly dollars and cents with people. Just get it out, get it over, get it out in the front.
Yep. Huge.
Well, the financial plan is something a lot of people kind of avoided during the unicorn market. It was like, hey, you want this house? Here's what it is. And one of my first transactions, I remember it was an idiot 20-year-old, and my mentor told me, like, hey, take the closing cost sheet and circle two numbers at the bottom, the monthly payment and the cash to close.
Yeah.
Because that's what people understand. You can walk them through how you get there and all the fees and all that stuff. That's the business plan to get in. And when you present it to someone, hey, this is your business plan to buy the house, that's way more effective. Excuse me, then, hey, here's what it's going to cost you. And it's things like that someone sees that. You never know who's watching. All of a sudden, the parents of the buyer you're helping, well, they might be thinking about selling in a couple of years, and they see how you approach those things. It does go a long way. That's great advice from Alex Hormozi. I mean, I love that.
I've seen that a bunch of times where you're doing something and the parents take notice. That's happened to me a lot in my career. And that's the point he's making. You don't know who's watching, whether it's on social or just the service that you're providing gets relayed to somebody else, another family member, somebody tags along on the deal. It's why being a top professional at all times matters. It's why just going to the grocery store in your sweatpants, if you want to be seen as the top professional in your market, might not be a good decision this winter. You should look on your game. You chose this business. Nobody chose it for you. If you were in the tech industry, you could go with some Champion sweats to the grocery store in your community. But you're not a tech bro, okay? I mean, Lisa Chinatti is, but the rest of us are not.
I get comments all the time. I mean, I met a client of mine. He came to our pumpkin patch event over the weekend. Says, call me on Monday, find out the situation. And I go over to his house, and he's like, wow, you got all dressed up. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, this is just how we do things. And, I mean, people, respect that stuff. And this is someone I sold a home to in 2009. And it's, I mean, look at that relationship you're nurturing there.
Huge.
His parents own a home. They're involved. He's in the middle of some stuff that's going on. So you got to show up with your A game every time. I mean, I cannot stress that enough.
All right, you want to wrap here and do a big show next week for the Jerome Powell decision, which will come out Thursday?
There's not. It's been kind of a status quo week, Byron. I said the same thing to Lisa.
But I like it. It's almost a good thing. Like it's a good thing to have like.
I agreed.
Stability.
I'm not complaining. Yeah, it lets you do your job and the things that are going to give you the highest and best use of your time. So for all the knowledge brokers listening, you got an extra half hour since we're not going an hour here to go make phone calls, talk to people, and set appointments.
Totally.
Absolutely. I'll be looking forward to what Jay Powell does next week, and I'm sure we'll have to go a little longer there because we will be tearing into every line that he mentions about housing.
Byron will be tearing in.
Exactly. We'll get a classic Byron Lazine rant. Like
that's right. I'm about to go get on my phone right now and give somebody a rant who's been insane this morning. So
I feel bad.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.